All right. What's up, everybody? It's Nate here with another episode of the Dads Who Mosh podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. This is episode number 3, the third one we've done. And it's cool to just kind of see this slowly grow. There's some dads out there, there's some listeners out there. I mean, not just dads, but there's some listeners out there. It's I don't know. This is one of those things where it's just like I'm gonna keep doing this regardless because it's fun for me. I've always kind of needed a creative outlet, but I'm not a super creative person. Maybe it's just I like to hear my own voice. But anyways, I'm super grateful to anybody that is listening, anybody that's checking it out. Grateful to my boy Jesse that was on last week, talking about dad stuff, talking about show stuff. It's a new week. It's just me here. Just got my tickets for Furnace Fest in October. So I'm excited to be there for that. I'm going to be putting out a lot of content from Furnace Fest. We were talking about that last week when Jesse and I were chatting about it. And it's like one of those things where like they revived Furnace Fest from like the 90s and early 2000s. And then it was like supposed to be done. And so last year was supposed to be the last Furnace Fest. Then all of a sudden they're like, just kidding. We're bringing it back again. Is this going to be the last one? I don't know. There's all these conspiracies out there about like, oh, they've got hidden messages about how like the Chariot is going to get back together or whatever. Who knows? I did see that they announced that Drain is going to be there, and I'm super stoked to see Drain. If I mean anybody out there that's seen Drain live or watched YouTube videos or whatever, Drain is sick, and so I'm super excited to see them. Like, this would it be worth it just to go see Drain in this venue? So. Anyways, excited for that. That's all the way in October, so we got a long ways for that. Got a bunch of shows coming up here in my area, in the Arizona area. So I'll post, videos and stuff about that. Got some bands I'm going to go check out in the very near future. I feel like in a lot of podcasts, especially with like video, they cut out when people drink coffee. Not me, dude. Not me. This is as real as it gets. You might even be listening to this podcast drinking coffee. We're drinking coffee together, right? We're just a couple of dudes hanging out, a couple of chill guys, as my 14-year-old son would joke about with the memes. Just a chill guy, just drinking coffee. We're talking about shows. We're talking about being dads. What are we talking about this week? The Super Bowl happened. Not to be too cliche of a guy, but I do love football. My team, unfortunately, is the now Las Vegas Raiders. I've been a Raiders fan for a huge portion of my life. It has been a very painful experience for me. Doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. But along with being a Raiders fan, you are a very anti Kansas City Chiefs type of a person. Everybody is anti Kansas City Chiefs unless you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, which, most of them are bandwagoners at this point. Um, but my two favorite teams are the Raiders and anybody that's playing against the Chiefs. And so I was a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. This last weekend, super happy with the outcome. Obviously, I think this is where I've landed because for most of the season, I like when we went into this season because of the way the last Super Bowl ended up and everything with like Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and things like that. And so just to set the record straight, I have nothing against Taylor Swift. I don't think any of this is her fault, right? I think that as soon as she started dating Travis Kelce, the NFL was like, whoa, 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 wait a second. Now any Kansas City Chiefs game is basically like a mini Taylor Swift concert. Like there's a lot of people watching just to see Taylor Swift. Guess how much money we can charge for ad space now? So as our viewership went up, they're like, yeah, there's a lot of money in this. So I think the NFL, is making a bigger deal out of it than they need to. I don't think it's Taylor Swift's fault. I don't think it's Travis Kelce's fault. So it's not like I'm like, oh, boo, Taylor Swift. Like I don't care. I think it's cool that people are watching football that maybe don't normally watch football. Is it changing the NFL? Yeah, absolutely. But again, that's not Taylor Swift's fault. That's, the NFL's fault for just kind of following the money. So because of that, though, I will be honest, I was a full blown NFL conspiracy theorist this last season. I was convinced the Chiefs were going to get their three-peat. There's no way they lost a game to the Bills just because, NFL is run by Disney and they got to be like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe the Bills can beat them. And of course, honestly, to me, the best game that the Chiefs played all season was their game against the Bills in the conference championship. That's the best game, and really, it was the only good game that the Chiefs had all season long. Because I will tell you what, man. Then this is why I was a conspiracy theorist. There were so many games that they won either by just like dumb luck, and it's like, how does anyone get that much luck? Like, how in the world are you that lucky as a team? Or they won because they benefited from some really bad calls from the ref, and it was just like these bad calls were just stacking one after the other to the point where I'm like, come on, there's no way that these many bad calls happen, and they always are called in favor of the Chiefs. Even when the Super Bowl started and they called that offensive pass interference, I'm like, here we go. This is it. This is what the whole game is going to be. Just terrible call after terrible call. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's the Super Bowl. Who cares? They're going to get this three-peat. But then it didn't happen. And so for a while, I was like, yeah, the NFL is in on this. It's all a conspiracy. They want the Chiefs to win. The NFL is a Disney movie now. Football is dead. I'm just going to watch college football. But that didn't happen in the Super Bowl, obviously. The Chiefs got, sufficiently throttled by the Eagles. And I think I kind of eased up a little bit on the conspiracy theories. I am still convinced that the Chiefs are not a good football team. Like, they're not that good. Andy Reid is a great coach. I think Patrick Mahomes is a really good quarterback. But aside from that, like, they don't have any like really, really amazing players anymore. Travis Kelce is obviously seems past his prime. I don't think that the Chiefs are that good of a football team. I certainly don't think they ever deserve to be in the Super Bowl this last year by any means. I don't think they deserved to be in the Super Bowl by any means. I think instead of being a conspiracy theorist, I am convinced though that, the only reason the Chiefs were there was due in large part because of these bad calls. I'm not convinced that the NFL had this whole conspiracy to get them to the Super Bowl and have them win the Super Bowl, obviously because they lost. But I think that I think that, they won because of dumb luck and they won because of really bad calls that went in their direction. And that's the only reason they got in the Super Bowl. And I think that was clear because the Philadelphia Eagles are a good football team. Like, they are a good overall football team. It's not about just one person. They're a good overall football team. And that's why they won, because when the game is called fair, which I feel like after those first couple of flags that were thrown against Kansas City and against Philadelphia, I think there was a flag thrown against Kansas City early on too that I was like, yeah, that's a bad call. Like, that wasn't, whatever it was that they threw the flag for. But I think the game was called fairly for the rest, for really 3.5 quarters of that game. And I think when the game is called fairly, and when they're up against a really talented team, the Chiefs just fall apart. So this isn't necessarily a football podcast. I just have to throw that out there. I'm not a Taylor Swift hater. I do not like the Kansas City Chiefs, probably even more so than most people because they're in my team's division and we're kind of rivals. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is that good of a quarterback. Don't think Travis Kelce is that good of a tight end, but who cares? I mean, they're both way more athletic than I ever will be. So I don't really have too much room to talk. So anyways, I was listening to a podcast earlier this morning and they were talking about the Super Bowl, specifically like Super Bowl commercials. And, every once in a while you get Super Bowl commercials that are politically charged, right? Or there's like some social cultural agenda that's trying to be pushed in these Super Bowl commercials. There wasn't a lot of that this last year. And that was kind of what the guy was saying. He was like, oh, I didn't really see much, in regards to like, commercials that were really pushing anything. But I was thinking about this morning. There were two commercials in particular that did kind of like, I guess, rub me the wrong way. And again, it's like, who cares? It's, why does Nate even have an opinion? But I do. And that's what I'm going to talk about because I feel like it kind of concerns guys, dads, husbands, just men in general. But I should preface all this by saying that the best Super Bowl commercial was obviously the Tostinos ones with Tim Robinson and it's Sam Richardson from I Think You Should Leave and from Detroiters. It's like I Think You Should Leave. Like I don't. There's not a lot of shows that I laugh at anymore. My wife and I have been watching Shrinking on Apple TV, which is hilarious. So we've been laughing at Shrinking, also crying at Shrinking, which is really fun. Um, but we've also been, or I've been, my wife won't watch. I think you should leave. She thinks it's stupid, but I follow their page on Instagram, like all these other pages that just put like reels that are clips from I Think You Should Leave. I laugh every single time. Like there's not a lot in the world like as far as shows are concerned that I can watch over and over and over and over again and still laugh. And I do that. Like the skits and it's on I Think You Should Leave are hilarious. And so of course my favorite commercial was the one with Chasmo or whatever, the alien that gets smashed in the door with those guys. Anyways, there were a couple of commercials that just really got me thinking, kind of got me a little fired up as far as, like being a man and, being a dad and being a husband and how it seemed like men were represented in those commercials. And I will preface this as well by saying, I am not going to just go on a rant here in a bit just for the sake of going on a rant. A lot of guys will go on rants about this, especially like ultra conservative guys will go on rants about this and be like, they're attacking men and stuff like that. I think there was a little bit of like, an attack towards men in it, but when it comes to that stuff, I try to, and I get better at it, I feel like as I get older. I try to get past just like being upset about it and get into the point where it's like, what have I done to make this an issue? Like, where am I at fault in this? And that's just like a good thing to do, like in a marriage, right? Like, it's really easy to just be like, I'm right, right? Like, I see couples do it all the time, right? Like, let's stick with doing it from the perspective of a husband. Let's say, like, your wife says something to you, she's wrong, or like it's not the way she's portraying it is not correct, or whatever. It's really easy for dudes to just be like, no, you're wrong. Like, I'm right about this. And they get really angry. But it takes a bit of maturity to get to the point where we're like, okay, yes, you are wrong. Yes, you're misunderstanding this. Okay, like, so let's say, um, your wife is mad at like something you said, right? It happens a lot. As guys, we say something that our wife doesn't like. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to be malicious. I wasn't trying to be mean. I wasn't trying to do any of that stuff. And so it's really easy to stick there or stay there and be like, nope, I'm putting my foot down. I didn't mean anything mean. I love you. Like I never would say anything mean to you. And you kind of just make your wife feel stupid for feeling the way that she felt. When really, like maturity as a person, as a man, as a husband or a father is okay. Yes, it's true. I did not mean this, but what could I have done better? Or what have I done and said in the past that might make my wife think that I'm being rude or that I'm being mean or something like that? So there's always areas for growth. And so I'm about to go on a little bit of a rant about these two commercials that aired during the Super Bowl. But I don't want to do it just for the sake of going on a rant. I want to do it for the sake of examining myself and maybe any other dads or men that are out there that are listening to this, think about a little bit like maybe what can we do better? What have we done to kind of maybe cause this misconception about men? And the first one was that commercial was for breast cancer awareness. And the guy I was listening to on this podcast was talking about how like he can't like I can't believe it like that type of commercial would have been considered pornographic a couple of decades ago. And it's like he's probably right. But the issue that I had with it is obviously like our culture is hypersexualized. Hypersexualized. Like it's, that like sex sells a lot. And we have to admit that a lot of that is because of men. It's because men are these sexually charged creatures, and we, instead of exhibiting self-control, just allow ourselves to act on our impulses. And we pay for things and we buy things and we watch things and we act a certain way because we just allow ourselves to give into these impulses. Now, the issue that I had with that commercial It's right. It's about breast cancer. And let's just be candid. Like the whole commercial was about boobs. Like they're just like, it's like throwing it in your face over and over and over again. And there's that little scene in the commercial where like, the guy looks down and the girl's like, really? Like, like he's a pig, for looking. And I do like the issue that I had with that commercial was the fact that like that stuff gets thrown in men's faces all the time. Now, again, like I said, I'm gonna bring it back. I'm not just being like, you can't just like throw yourself out there and be mad at men. Like, I do still think men need to be responsible. They need to keep their eyes to themselves. They need to be respectful. Just because a woman is dressing a certain way doesn't mean she wants you to look at her. Like, I do get that. But the commercials and the entertainment industry throws that stuff in your face. Like the entertainment industry is telling women essentially, hey, like you want to make a lot of money, dress like this, act like this, be provocative, throw yourself out there. And they're like, oh, it's empowering for women. And maybe it is. And I don't, really have a place to talk about whether it is or not. But I think where I get frustrated is they throw that in men's faces because they know men are going to respond and give their money to stuff like that because men look at that. So it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And then it's like when a man looks at that woman, she's like, why are you looking at me? You pig, like you disgusting slob. Why would you do this? And so it's like they throw it in your face. And then when it's in your face and your eyes are open, they're like, why are your eyes open? It's like you need to close your eyes. This isn't for you. But it is. Like it is. It's there for men. It's there so that men will spend their money on things. But then it's like, well, you're a pig. So you're disgusting as a man. And so men are just kind of like stuck in this weird, like, okay, so like everything in the entertainment industry is built on celebrating the fact that men are sexually charged, and attracted to women. But then when a man is caught being sexually charged and attracted to a woman, they're a pig, right? And again, I'm going to bring this back around to like the responsibility of men because I do think that men do have a responsibility. There is a certain part where men do become pigs. They're not wrong about the fact that men are pigs. I don't think it's fair that they throw it in your face and then call you a pig for having it in your face. But there is a certain honesty to that. Men do not have a long track record of being respectable. Men do have a long track record of being disgusting pigs and treating women like objects. Again, I don't think it's fair to exploit that and have these media moguls treat women like objects, but then be mad at the men who are viewing it, treating them like objects. I mean, the people that make these commercials are doing the same thing. Um, but I think like I said, I mean, what we need to change as men is we need to change the respect that we have towards women. The sex sells in the entertainment industry, and that's obvious because, like, I mean, things like OnlyFans exist, and porn exists, and the sex trafficking industry exists. I mean, that stuff exists because men give into their sexual urges, and they do treat women like objects. Now, yes, on the one hand, culture and society is really making it hard for men to like really know what to do because it's like this is being presented as normal, but then when a man indulges in it, he's a pig, so it's really hard for men to know what to do. But really, men need to just have personal responsibility. It's like who cares? Who cares if society is making this normal and then calling you a pig for like engaging in it? Like you need to make a decision for yourself as a man, as a husband, as a father. Like you need to make that decision to take a stand and be like, you know what? No. Like yes, I'm going to admit that as a man, I have I have an attraction towards women, but I have self-control and I can control it and I don't have to act on it and I don't have to treat them like garbage. I don't have to treat them like objects. I don't have to objectify women and make it as if like they exist to satisfy my desires, even though society is really trying to make me feel like women exist to satisfy my desires and how they're portrayed in film and commercials and music and all this stuff. But it's like it's like you need to have the wisdom to just be able to be like, you know what? I know this is what society is saying, but I'm going to decide for myself that I'm going to have respect and love and care for the women around me, and I'm not just going to give in to what society is saying a real man is like. It's like there's like a paradox. It's like, yeah, a real man is somebody that is like buff and handsome and like, can sleep with a bunch of women. But on the other hand, like society is like, no, you're a pig for doing that. Well, it's like, you know, but you need to make that decision, I think, for yourself as a man because commercials like that exist because men, yes, are pigs oftentimes, and it's really low hanging fruit to make fun of men for being that way. And so I think there's a way for us to do better there. The second commercial that I struggled with was there was a flag football commercial, and I am all for it, right? Like the message at the end was, they really wanted to make women's flag football a varsity sport in all 50 states, which I'm like, that's awesome. I think that's great. Yeah, go do it. Like that's amazing. I think it's a great goal. I think flag football is awesome. Um, I think that's great. What I didn't like about that commercial, and you can probably guess, was like how men were portrayed as just idiots. And again, just based on what I said about the last commercial, you can probably guess that I'm gonna be like, yeah, there's a reason for that. But I just like it, the whole just like, like girls can't play football. Like even calling the guy Chad, I'm just like, come on, like not all men are idiots. And that I think is what is also frustrating as a dad and as a husband that like tries and as somebody that knows a lot of dads and husbands and guys that are trying to not be a douchebag, right? Like I know more guys that are not idiots, They're not like, not like the men that are portrayed in that breast cancer awareness commercial. They're not, like the men that are portrayed in that flag football commercial. I know a lot of guys that are trying hard. And it sucks to like put all of that work and effort into that and then just like people like, nah, you suck. Like, nah, you're a pig, you're an idiot, like you're sexist, no matter what, and that's frustrating. But again, I have to be a little introspective and be like, okay, yeah, like men have a long history of portraying themselves as those things. And, we have a lot of changing that we need to do. My wife and kids and I have been going back through and watching Home Improvement. And like dads back in the day, like we portrayed ourselves as idiots, right? Like, I mean, Tim, the tool man Taylor, like just is this bumbling idiot that messes everything up and doesn't know how to talk to women and just grunts and wants to talk about tools and sports. And like that stuff is fine. But it's like for a long time, the way that you portrayed yourself as a man or like to be more of a man, it's like you had to be more of an idiot. And that's so frustrating because like there's a lot of dudes out there that are not idiots. Like to a certain extent, we are, right? Like we're not as emotionally intelligent as like my wife is, for example. And yeah, there's times where like I'll say something without thinking. It's like, oh, man, like idiot, like why did you say that? Or we'll do something, like yeah, there's a lot of times where like around our house there'll be a project that I want to do. I don't want to pay somebody else to do it. I feel like I got to do it because I'm a man, and then I botch the whole thing, like hanging things. Dude, hanging things on the wall is my nightmare. I hate hanging things, especially if I have to hang things that are supposed to be like evenly spaced and at the same level. Like we've got these three stupid paintings in our dining room that are like, that you got to hang one here, one here, one here. They all got to be equal. I suck at it. I put like 400 holes in the walls trying to get these stupid things level and get super angry. But like, so there's times where we are idiots, right? We do stupid things, but I think as men, I think when we watch commercials like that, it's really easy to be like, well, I'm not a pig, or like, well, why are you throwing it in my face and then calling me a pig? Or you see the flag football commercial and you're like, all right, we're not all Chads, right? We're not all like, duh, like these knuckle dragging, mouth breathing idiots. They're like, girls can't do things. Like guys don't think that. The majority of men don't think. Okay, any ladies that are listening to this, the majority of men in your life more than likely are not like that. Okay, it's been a long time since there's been an accurate depiction of like real men in pop culture. All right, so that's not how it really is. Most men do not just objectify you. Most men respect you as an equal human being capable of doing everything and maybe even more than what they can do. All right. Like, we're not all idiots. And it's really easy to get upset when we watch these commercials and be like, well, men are stupid. But it's like, well, okay, well, what have we done in the past and what can we do better now? As far as that breast cancer awareness and guys just like staring at women, like that's an easy one, dude. Like, start to have some respect, right? Like, start to have some respect for women. There's a long history of men just like slack jawed staring at women, that we have to overcome. And it's not a rejection of the fact that we are, built to be attracted to certain things. But it's just having self-control. Like that to be a real man is to accept that, yeah, there's certain attractions that I have, but I have enough respect for women and I have enough self-control where I'm not going to act on those things. And I'm not going to be part of the problem that fuels these billion-dollar industries that exploit women and, and make men feel like trash for the way that they are. And as far as like equality with women, yeah, like we need to just like, maybe we need to shut up about Taylor Swift being at the Super Bowl. Who cares? Who cares? We can't, there's no reason to make fun of like a mom and a daughter that are watching football and don't understand football, but they're watching it because of Taylor Swift. Who cares? Like, why is that not okay? Like, like if your favorite player is, whoever, Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles, he's basically your Taylor Swift, right? Like you're wearing his jersey, right? Like I've got Raiders jerseys, just like they have Taylor Swift t-shirts. There's no difference just because she's a girl, So I don't think society and culture do us any favors as men, but I think also on the other hand, we've kind of put ourselves in that situation, right? We've allowed ourselves to be placed in that situation. And so I think if we're going to see those things change, if we're going to, stop seeing commercials with, you know, this dates me, right? But we're going to stop seeing commercials with like Paris Hilton in a swimsuit for a Carl's Jr. commercial, right? If we're going to stop seeing those commercials that are exploiting women and over sexualizing women, if we're going to stop seeing commercials where, men are just portrayed as sexist, racist, dumb idiots, if we're going to stop seeing that stuff, then it's like the day to day, right? The day to day, you need to make the decision. You're going to wake up today and you're going to be respectful. You're going to have self-control. You are going to put others' needs and desires ahead of your own. You're going to think about other people. You're not just going to act on your basest instincts as men, no matter how bad society wants you to do it. You're going to rise above that. And so I think it rant over. I hope people are like hearing what I'm saying, because the last thing I want to sound like is some guy that's like they're attacking men, like they're attacking white men. Like that's not what I'm doing. All right, it's not. I think if men are being attacked, like it's because of our own doing, and I think there's things that we can do better. Um, I thought the halftime show was awesome. It's funny too because my in-laws were there, and Emmett, my oldest, is 14, and he was trying to explain, to my in-laws, like, the songs that he was doing and like what they meant. We had a couple of like, I can't understand what he's saying comments and things like that, which is fine. There are people like, oh, Kendrick doesn't have as many big hits as Drake or whatever like that. And they're like, it was lame. It wasn't, like we've had huge Super Bowl halftime shows in the past, and this just wasn't that. But I'm just like, whatever. That's not what it was supposed to be, you know. I really like Kendrick Lamar. There's a lot of Kendrick Lamar stuff that I'm just like, it's okay, but that doesn't matter. Like my opinion on it doesn't matter. Like that's the thing. Like, okay, so like this is a good example. I think last year at Furnace Fest, Josh, who started Norma Jean, and then went on to be with the Chariot and is now with 68. They played their song "Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste," which was just like such a great song when it came out, when Josh was in the band Norma Jean, and now it's Corey that does the vocals, but Josh came on and did that song with them. And a lot of people will look at that and be like, this is stupid. Like, this is chaos. Why is everyone freaking out over this song? Why is everyone freaking out about like these guys coming up on the stage? Like, why does this matter? But it matters to the people that it was meant for, right? It matters to the people that like loved hardcore and metalcore, especially like in the 90s and the early 2000s. They loved like the energy from Norma Jean, and they loved like seeing these people reunite and do these old songs. Like that means a lot to us. And so it's like the same with the Super Bowl halftime show. Like I'm not going to pretend that like I was deeply moved by it because it's not for me, right? Like the people that it was geared toward are people that have lived a lot different life than I have. And I think that's awesome. Like what moves me is that they had like there are people, like the black community in America had that halftime show. It wasn't for me. It was for them. And I think that's a huge thing. I'm moved by that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh yeah, like that I thought, like I thought it was awesome." And I think Kendrick Lamar is extremely talented and I thought it was so much better than so many other, aside from like the one where Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Kendrick and Eminem and Mary J. Blige were on. Like that one I loved, but a lot of halftime shows I'm just like, this is so boring. Um, but I think it's one of the better ones, but I also understand that I can't fake that like it was for me because I know it wasn't, but I thought it was really cool. So anyways, I thought that was awesome. The halftime show was, and yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully people don't think I'm ranting too much here. I think men are great. I think women are great. I should probably stop talking before I get myself into more trouble. Like I said, speaking of, equality, which, this may be stupid. Spirit Box released a new song this last week, and it's awesome, dude. And I think it's, again, as far as like equality, I think like when it comes to hardcore and metalcore and like the heavy music scene, I think what I would love to see is like moving the conversation away from like, oh, this is a band with like a female vocalist. They just have a vocalist, right? I think when we were like, oh wow, they sound so good and it's a chick, like that's dudes being idiots. Like to me, it's like, why are we like, oh wow, I can't believe she's so good. It's like if we're going to talk about equality in the scene, and I think actually like the hardcore and the heavy music scene is a really good place to witness equality. Um, because you see everybody in the pit, you see everybody in these bands. I think, there are some knuckle draggers out there that are like, oh, dude, like she's a chick. Whoa. Like, but, um, yeah, I think the hardcore scene is a really cool place where like it doesn't matter who you are. Um, if you love that kind of music, you're accepted automatically, regardless of really anything else. So I think, the hardcore scene is a place where there's not always been equality, but there's been like this place of acceptance. And, as like hardcore for a long time was underground, it wasn't like this big movement. It was a big movement, but didn't gain a lot of popularity, but now it is. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, for society to start accepting people that like this kind of music. Um, but anyways, that's about it for today. Got some other guests coming up soon. So keep an eye out for that. Appreciate you guys listening. Got some shows coming up soon that I'll be at. Soonest one is The Plot in You. So I'll be posting some content from there, especially, I'm going to be posting stuff when Boundaries plays at that show. Counterparts is coming through town. Super excited about that. Poison the Well is coming through town. The other one that I forgot to mention last week is Obituary, which I'm just like not into the band Obituary, like a bunch of older dudes, but Terror is opening for them. Be my first time seeing Terror, so I'm excited about that. And then Nails is an opener for that one as well. So a lot of really great shows coming through. Hopefully some good content coming through. Appreciate you guys listening. And until next time, take it easy.